Pumps, CNN invited Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, whom we call Donovan Lecter, to do a town hall. Trump is too weak, too exhausted, too demented to show up, but Kamala showed up. Let me play for you what she had to say about Trump. Play the clip.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military.
I mean, I think her point that these are people from within his administration that are career military people that took an oath to the Constitution. These aren't left-wing Democratic operatives that are saying this guy is dangerous, he's a fascist, he admires Hitler. These are people that worked with him every single day in Situation Rooms and in the Oval Office.
Well, John Kelly, four-star general, was his chief of staff. He liked his policies. And he comes now and he says, yes, he called people of the military suckers and losers. Yes, he is a fascist. I mean, you can go down the line. Defense Secretary, Mike Pence says he's unfit. John Bolton, Ty Cobb, who was his White House counsel. I mean, the list goes on and on. The 78 people that have testified before the grand jury in the January 6th committee, they weren't Democrats. They were Republicans, all of whom had a vested interest in Donald Trump's success.
It's really unprecedented.
It is.
In my opinion, that you have this many people from within an administration sounding the alarm bell about how dangerous this man is. And I don't know what it is with the percentage of the American public that is able to keep moving the goalposts for this man and bend themselves into pretzels to vote for him. And it is going to be a really interesting post-election autopsy on the American psyche. And I'm not talking about all Americans, but I'm talking about the ones that buy into this propaganda, because it is, when I see these people cheering for him and laughing at his cruel jokes, I mean, sometimes I laugh, but a lot of times my heart just kind of sinks into my stomach because I think these people are craven. What is this cruelty that is emanating among the American electorate? But here's something that you hear a lot on the right. And the right wing now, I think one adjective we could use to describe them is they are severely entitled people. And you hear them talk about, well, Biden needs to pardon Trump, that we just need to ignore the fact that he's a convicted felon. He stole top secret security clearance items and stored them next to his toilet at Mar-a-Lago. So a couple days ago, Kamala did an interview, and here's what the journalist asked her.
It is entirely possible that the federal court cases against the former president will continue on. He is, of course, facing those felony charges. Would you consider, if you win and he's convicted, a pardon for former President Trump?
I'm not going to get into those hypotheticals. I'm focused on the next 14 days.
But do you believe, is there any part of you that subscribes to the argument that has been made in the past that a pardon could help bring America together, could help unify the country and move on?
Let me tell you what's going to help us move on. I get elected president of the United States.
All right, 2 points. Bring the country together. What planet are these people living on? We all saw January 6th. We hear the craven cheers when he talks about rounding up immigrants and the enemy from within and vermin and all of this Hitler-esque style language. And they cheer. Bring together, because we pardon a fascist criminal that crimes and lies every single second he can get. Number 2, good for Kamala. She's tough. The way that we can get over this is to elect me for president. And she's a prosecutor. to her core, and she knows that he has to be held accountable. The history books must read at a later date that the United States of America held this man to account to the fullest extent of the law. Furthermore, you don't get to be the party of law and order.
Right.
We're so worried about crime. And then pardon this American crime boss, con man, dangerous grifter. I mean, it's just more than I can take.
I was so impressed with Kamala Harris on so many of her answers at the town hall with Hallie Jackson. She was pointed, she was thoughtful, she was serious. Where you have somebody, why are we in a position that the Republican nominee for the third time has to be pardoned? Because he flaunts the law, he wants unmitigated power, and the only time he has ever been held accountable in his entire life is with the New York City Manhattan case. And I hope to God they put him in jail. I don't know if they will, but rest assured, if Donald Trump is elected, all of those federal cases will go away. And I just want to say that Donald Trump presented his transition team. Do you know who was at the top of the list to be Attorney General?
I saw it. Eileen Cannon.
Aileen Cannon, who has dismissed his Florida case contrary to the law, that's going to be heard by the appellate court. But this guy is so corrupt, and he is enabled to be so corrupt by the sycophants he surrounds him with, including Aileen Cannon.
Let's talk about that. Kamala said Trump has an enemies list.
Mm-hmm.
I have a to-do list. I mean, and it's sometimes the simplest things
Right.
really illustrate what's at play here. His number one first thing that he will do if he is to win, which, listener, we're all freaking out, I know, but I don't think he's going to. But the first thing he would do would be to overturn all of his cases, dismiss them, get them out.
Yep.
And then he's going to start going after his enemies. It's all he can talk about at his rallies. He does not have any policies other than this megalomania, crazed flight of ideas. I want to get the enemy from within. He's far more concerned with people that don't like him in his own country than he is with foreign policy. And for the permanent record, I just believe, and I believe there's a ton of anecdotal evidence that Vladimir Putin has the goods on him. You will never convince me otherwise, because the way he sucks up to him is bizarre. All right, let's hear from our sponsor really quickly. And when we get back, we're going to show the split screen of all of the crazy ass stuff that Trump said last night at his rally. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Pumps, I've been so stressed out lately. The election, work, kid responsibilities, etc. Sometimes I just don't feel like myself. And I've been taking the time once a week to schedule a session with my therapist from BetterHelp. It makes all the difference in the world.
What I love about my BetterHelp therapist is that it's convenient for my schedule because it's all online, and I can do it from my own home where I feel no inhibitions.
That really is helpful, where you're in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to worry about the waiting room door opening and closing. It's a million times better. Listener, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/IHIP today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/IHIP. Okay, so let's contrast Kamala Harris's campaign with Trump's rallies. Here's what Trump said last night.
As many as you have no idea what I did in the White House. I stopped wars with France. France, you know the France story? They were going to charge us, think of this, 25% to all America. I have to protect American companies, whether we like them or not. Some of them I didn't even like. You know, Google is treating us much better. Do you notice that? What happened to Google? They're treating us much better. Very nice. I appreciate that very much. They say McDonald's was one of the most viewed things that they've ever had. Can you believe McDonald's?
I mean, he's clearly lost it.
He's clearly lost it. He stopped a war with France.
It's just, I'm sure
Shut
that's
up.
news to Macron. It's just insanity. It's insane. And this is what psychiatrists call the flight of ideas. He goes from France to Google. And then, he is so unhinged right now that he believes when he talks about people seeking asylum, he confuses that with insane asylums. And then the thing that he associates with an insane asylum is Hannibal Lecter. And he says it over and over and over. And once somebody calls him out on something, he cannot help himself. He has to double down on, quote unquote, the weave.
The weave. It's called rambling and making no sense. And one thing that I pick up in all of his rallies and all of his speeches is it's always like, well, they like me. I heard him say about J.D. Vance, well, he liked me the most. I don't want to give anybody aid after a natural disaster unless they voted for me. Since when do you parse presidential power and duties to whether people like you or not?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
This is a symptom of a personality disorder called malignant narcissistic personality disorder. These are the signs. These are the symptoms. Everything is related to masking his own insecurity. So he has to have this hard shell and seeks adoration and approval at all times, because if he doesn't get it, this gaping hole of insecurity beneath it is too painful to feel. So that's why there's always this effort on his part. Everybody likes me, and then to diminish those that don't like him. We're literally dealing with a person that psychiatrists should be dealing with right now. His family should have him in a home where, if this is what he wants to do in his waning days of his life, he could do it. He could have coloring books. He could draw new maps for hurricanes. He could do all sorts of things at the assisted living center. Nobody would give a shit. But this man wants to be president of the United States, and he's surrounded by a bunch, pardon my language here, he's surrounded by a bunch of evil motherfuckers.
Absolutely.
Totally evil motherfuckers that are so obsequious to his mental illness. It's amazing. But speaking of evil motherfuckers, next up we have Tucker Carlson, who claims that he's never spoken at a political rally before last night. Mind you, he spoke at the RNC 3 months ago. But also, Tucker Carlson is a Russian asset.
Yes.
There's no question about it. And here's what he says to an arena full of people. And I want you to, number one, listen to how crazy the shit he is saying is, how antiquated it is. And then number two, listen to the craven response and jeering from the crowd.
If you allow people to get away with are completely over the top and outrageous, if you allow your 2-year-old to smear the contents of his diapers on the wall of your living room, and you do nothing about it, if you allow your 14-year-old to light a joint at the breakfast table, if you allow your hormone-addled 15-year-old daughter to slam the door of her bedroom and give you the finger, you're gonna get more of it. And those kids are gonna wind up in rehab. It's not good for you, and it's not good for them. No. There has to be a point at which dad comes home. Yeah, that's right. Dad comes home. And he's pissed. Dad is pissed. He's not vengeful. He loves his children. Disobedient as they may be, he loves them. Because they're his children, they live in his house. But he's very disappointed in their behavior. And he's gonna have to let them know. He's gonna have to get to your room right now and think about what you did. And when dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl, and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now. And no, it's not gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it's not. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl.
Number one, this is stupid people shit.
Yes.
This is crazy people shit. This is sick fuck shit is what this is.
Sick fuck shit.
And I'm sorry for the colorful language, but there's no other way to express it. Number one, a hormone-riddled female does not then need to be vigorously spanked because she's been a bad girl. That's weird, sick, and twisted. Secondly, to demean families who have had to send their children to rehab because of addiction, and to act like that is some horrible destination. Rehab is a place for solutions to treat a disease. And it affects everybody: Republicans, Democrats, independents, Christians, atheists, Muslims, Jews, everybody is affected by addiction. And so that's just incredibly dismissive and demeaning, especially in light of the overwhelming epidemic we have with the opioid epidemic, et cetera. And, addiction has touched both of our personal lives intensely. And so I take extreme exception to demonizing people who have had to spend time in rehab, because what those people are doing, they are seeking medical treatment. Now on to all this daddy stuff.
Yeah.
And getting spanked and bad girls and all this stuff. It's a stupid argument to an audience of stupid people. But did you hear how excited they were about all that? And here's what I thought, Pumps, when I watched that clip. I just thought, this is 1930s Nazi Germany shit. You see Hitler speaking to a big, adoring crowd, and they all cheer, and they're all excited, and they're all happy about all the crazy shit he's saying. And that's what's going on with MAGA. You have everybody cheering Donald Trump when he talks about these really evil things like rounding up immigrants and concentrating them somewhere, and people having bad genes, bad genetics, all of this Nazi talk. And then you have him talking about spanking everybody. And so there's this weird, kind of sexual thing with that that's really bizarre. So I just think these people are sickos. I think they're weirdos. And ending Trump doesn't end the problem that we have in this country. We have a major, major problem where a large portion of the country really likes recreational cruelty.
They like cruelty. They're misogynistic. They're racist. What's interesting about the Tucker Carlson, to me, what stuck out is daddy's coming home. Daddy's going to save the family. Forgetting that over 50% of families are single mothers, and that they're required to discipline their children because their alpha men are not around. And it is ridiculous that all those people were cheering. It's gross. I bet you half of that audience, they are right-wing Christians. They would say, oh, we'd rather have Biden than Putin. I mean, we'd rather have Putin than Biden. I mean, this is a guy that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has testified under oath is a Russian agent, and nobody seems to give a shit. This is Russia on steroids. It's propaganda. He's gross. And I'm with you. He's gross and you can X him out. Trump's gross, you can X him out. Who are all these people cheering for this cruelty?
I just want to leave it with this. There has been a decades-long movement where they have started indoctrinating Americans in mega churches, in far-right churches in the suburbs. You and I grew up around it. And they get indoctrinated into Christian nationalism at a very young age, where they think abortion is murder. I remember growing up in the suburbs of Oklahoma City, and when our biology teacher was teaching evolution, like 4 or 5 kids stood up and walked out because they didn't want to hear the fact that we evolved. And so there's been a decades-long movement, and those people there, those are the people that were indoctrinated in these mega churches, this prosperity gospel at a very young age. That's the end result. They like guns. They don't like women. The women don't even like women.
Right.
They feel these men are so angry all the time because they've been told sex is so terrible, and they see a woman and she's attractive and they feel something down there. And then all of a sudden they have to hate her because they feel so terrible. And it's just this ongoing thing that we have got to really vote for a secular society, because at the core of this is Christian nationalism. Tucker Carlson's speech is straight out of the 1950s.
Yes.
It's cuckoo. It's nutty. It's stupid. It's like a low IQ, low-hanging fruit argument for people who think they should paddle the shit out of their kids and their wives should submit. And if their child has a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction, wants to bully them for that instead of seeking help for them.
It's unbelievable.
All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.
It's so